Welcome everyone, my name is Dario and today we're going to talk about how to break the clean architecture just adding a single NuGet package. I'm going to base this on Milan's Jovanovic video, why you don't need to abstract away EF core with clean architecture. Let's start the video.
In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use EF core directly in the application layer of the clean architecture and what are the benefits and drawbacks of using this approach.
To start, this sounds a little bit suspicious because let's go to the definition of Uncle Pop of the clean architecture and what does it mean. The clean architecture is a proposal based on different architecture patterns implemented long time ago, like more than 10 years ago, like the hexagon architecture, the onion architecture, screaming architecture, etc. As he points out, each of these architectures produce systems that are independent of frameworks. They are testables and they are dependent of the UI. One of the concepts that they have is that they are independent of the database. You can swap out Oracle or SQL Server for Mongo, Bigtable, CouchDB or something else. The business rules are not bound to the database. Let's look at how this is implemented.
I'm going to make the width, and I already have the database sets that are going to represent the tables in my database. So I know I have the customers and the orders entities that I'm going to work with in this use case. So let's go ahead and add those. I'm going to say db set of customer, and to be able to reference this, I need to add a reference to the domain project. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. We're going to give it a name of customers, and we're going to give it a get and set property.
Okay, so basically what he does is he creates an interface that is exposing a DB set of a domain model that is on the domain project. This is no clean architecture. Injecting a hardcore dependency on EF core is basically just breaking the architecture. There is no question, at least for me, that this is no clean architecture. This is just another way of jumping between layers to achieve some sort of result in a different way. What he then continues doing is explaining why he's doing this and continues the example on how he injects the interface instead of injecting the database directly or using a repository. He then talks about the benefits of doing this. Let's go to
handler. So let's now discuss what are the implications of using EF core directly in the application layer. One direct benefit is speed, and I hope you can see how fast I actually implemented this from scratch. I just added an interface, defined a few properties, connected it to our actual DB context, and I'm off to the races. I can use our interface in place of the DB context and easily work with EF core. One more benefit is I'm only depending on the iApplication DB context here, which is very simple. The DB context is going to implement the repository and unit of work patterns, and we don't have to introduce a million dependencies in our use case.
Okay, so the benefits of doing this is that he can work out with speed. I can imagine that he's saying this because he doesn't have to create a repository or a unit of work or this or that. In 2023, creating a generic repository is something that takes 5 minutes, and this actually, from the point of view of working, doesn't add speed. To the contrary, it adds a lot of burden, which is every time that you add a new property in your context, you have to add it on the interface, and that's basically a waste of time. Let's take a look at what are the drawbacks.
It can't be all that good, so what are the drawbacks of using this approach? We are directly tied to using EF core in the application layer. Now, this does allow us to switch SQL databases if we want to. If we want to switch from a relational database to maybe a document database like RavenDB, then we'd have to do a complete rewrite of our application layer.
One minor note there is that it's been a long time since EF Core supports Cosmos DB as a provider, so you can use EF Core with NoSQL database, but obviously you are tied to the implementations that Microsoft want. He is correct in saying that if you want to switch to something completely different, like RavenDB or Mongo or I don't know, AWS DynamoDB, then you have a problem. But you can do document databases with Cosmos DB on EF Core.
If we were using repositories instead, then we would just have to re-implement the repositories to match our new database, and we would leave the application layer intact. Another argument,
and that is the whole purpose of the clean architecture. You just create interfaces, completely independent from the frameworks or the DB, and you don't have to change your application layer.
and against this approach is that it breaks the clean architecture. Maybe, maybe not.
I would like to hear from his word why he thinks that this maybe not break the clean architecture. I'm happy to listen to another video or just to jump and understand on a call why he supports or he thinks that this might not break. From the moment that there is a dependency on a specific framework, for me, the clean architecture is completely broken. And that's the reason why I wouldn't do this or why I would use clean architecture at all.
I like to be pragmatic with my architecture and my implementation, and using EF Core is just so easy that I think it's worth the trade-offs.
Being pragmatic, at least for me, means something different. Being pragmatic will be to do not implement clean architecture at all because it adds a lot of complexity, a lot of abstractions, a lot of things that are not necessary in a large majority of projects. There are some projects that are long-lived and have some complexity that they require it. But in most of the cases, when you start in a new project, don't go with clean architecture. My suggestion, at least in .NET, is quite simple. Create one project for your application, one project for your persistence, and another project if you're going to expose through another interface like an API. So your persistence can be shared through different projects, but just keep one project for UI, one project for DB, one project for a Windows service, and one project for another thing. Just keep it simple. That is being pragmatic, not breaking the architecture. I hope this is clear and it makes sense. Again, this is not a personal attack on Milan. This is just understanding why this is not clean architecture and is broken immediately, just adding a NuGet package. I hope you liked the video. Please subscribe and I will see you in the next one.
I'm also going to